Merci. Health workers get a significant compensation for the services rendered. The presidential decree extending their retirement age is depicted as a stimulant which augments devotion to the Hippocratic Oath. Cooperatives formed to meet the common economic, social and cultural needs of members are given value as the world celebrates International Day of Cooperatives today, opened to diverse agro-pastoral fields. Parliament is set to examine the 2021-2023 medium-term economic and budgetary program. The document is tabled at the National Assembly in the plenary sitting chaired by House Speaker, Honorable Kawai Jibril. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Those were the headlines of the 7:30 news.
The wearing of face masks in public places will be mandatory until further notice.
We continue our 30-minute newscast with the extension of the retirement age of state health workers to 60 and 55 decreed by President Paul Biya. The decision has been received with delight and excitement in all parts of the country as the Public Health Corps considers the raise as a stimulant for work. Medical doctors will now be opportune to use the experience in full to provide medical health care. Beatrice Ngum tells us more.
They have braved the corona scare and put their lives on the scale to save lives. The medical personnel has been on the front line in the war against COVID-19 and government has not been indifferent. A decision from the President of the Republic has redefined their status. Doctors, nurses and other healthcare workers will now become senior citizens at 55 for assistant health staff and 60 for doctors and nurses.
It's comforting to know that our work is taken into consideration. We say thank you to the head of state for this initiative. It's important for us, the health center, because we will now have enough time to spend while in the service because we love what we're doing.
The country is facing a lot of crises, both political and the health crisis, COVID-19. Medical personnel have sacrificed their lives. And just when they are getting into the profession, that's when they are going for retirement. Professors, nurses, lab technicians. So it's a very, very, very timely gesture. We are grateful to the head of state for this wonderful gesture.
The decision reviewing retirement age has come as a booster to some health staff who were due retirement.
I had to go on retirement at 55, but I still feel strong and could still offer much. I'm grateful and I say thank you to the President. I will give in my best.
Many healthcare workers are unanimous. Their cry has been heard. Category A and B staff will now part way with their lab coat at 60 instead of 55, while Category C and D staff will do so at 55 instead of 50.
Nurses and assistant caretakers who are at the forefront in healthcare services, sometimes left out in reforms in the sector, also benefit from the presidential decree. The caretakers who tend to the sick and ensure that prescriptions of specialists are respected to the letter for complete healing now have reasons to be more committed to their work, oftentimes risky and misconstrued. Gerard Nanjie Yambe got their reactions in this report.
The presidential text is compensation for the efforts of the public health personnel in several domains where they have shown unreserved devotion, especially on the front line in the fight against COVID-19. The decree extends their retirement age for an additional 5 years in the different categories.
Je ne peux dire que merci au chef de l'État.
The decision could only be a good one, and we want to thank the head of state for having taken this decision. for the good of health practitioners. We are grateful that he recognizes our efforts.
Before now, most of them went on retirement but were not actually tired. The presidential decision has provided them with extra years for them to portray more of their commitment to the service of humanity.
We are health workers. But it's not good that some health workers go to retirement at 55 and the others go to 60. It's not good. We thank the head of state. This is a wonderful thing. Make that for this moment of Corona, make that health workers become happy.
Their expectations have fallen on fertile ground, and they will henceforth use the prime of their professional maturity, not only to save life, but also to transfer their experience to the younger generation.
The good news was also welcomed with joy in the Far North region, where civil servants of the public health sector have been giving in their best to make sure that the population remains healthy. Dr. Gerard Fetse Tama, director of the Maro Regional Hospital, admits that the presidential decree is a booster and calls for increased commitment from all health workers. As we hear in this report by Ayok Jonashu.
It is with radiant faces and broad smiles behind their face masks that civil servants of the public health sector in the Far North region received the presidential decree extending their retirement age. The good news came at a time when the director of the Marwa Regional Hospital and his collaborators were busy at their daily evaluation of the COVID-19 situation.
With a great joy that we received that message when the secretary came and informed us that a presidential decree has just been read over the radio. We were sure that the head of state will do something, because when he promised, he realized. That's a very big motivation factor for the health personnel.
The same euphoria prevails among medical and paramedical personnel governed by the labor code.
Very good news for the health personnel. We work harder to take care of patients in a good way.
The presidential gesture will undeniably motivate the health personnel in the Far North region in their service delivery, especially at a time when they are mobilized in the battle against the coronavirus.
Medical practitioners in the East region are as excited as their colleagues nationwide about the fact that 5 years have been added to their retirement age. At the Beto Regional Hospital, the medics and caregivers appreciate the move and use the occasion to nonetheless call for improved working conditions. Tala LT sampled their opinions in this report.
The decision by President Paul Biya to extend the retirement age of some medical and paramedical staff of the public health sector, some beneficiaries in the East, say it's a sign that the head of state is concerned about their working conditions. Dr. Rodrigue Lacroix and Valerie Paul Menge Ondo are beneficiaries.
It is a feeling of satisfaction to know that the President of the Republic has decided to allow us to take our retire at 60. And we just want to thank him, and we want to ensure that we give our best.
En fait, je suis très émue, très contente parce que c'est ce que nous avons toujours revendiqué.
I am very happy because it is what we have always asked for. Generations before us have canvassed for this change. It's a grace, and we say thank you to President Paul Biya for this decision.
Ce n'est que par la grâce du président, et nous ne pouvons que lui dire merci et rendre gloire à Dieu.
These doctors and nurses who have been advocating for better working conditions say they are hopeful other advantages will follow.
We also hope that apart from this opportunity that has been given to us, we also see how to improve our working condition. And in terms of working condition, I'm talking about our salary, our living condition, of course.
Since it is believed that the older you go, the more experienced you become, the health personnel who now retire at 60 say they are going to use the experience gathered in the course of their careers to create a positive impact in the health sector in Cameroon.
News: government's fixation to beat the coronavirus deepens in the suburbs as protective gears are distributed to the population. In Num Division of the West Region, the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, was represented by the Director of Civil Protection, Maria Tuyap, in the exercise. Ngo Herik Tiesambe tells us more.
Some 17 health facilities dotted in the 9 subdivisions of the Noon have benefited from the gifts. Some 200 hospital beds, 200 mattresses, 400 treated mosquito bed nets, and a 4-wheel drive vehicle for the Fumbot, Fumban, Kuoptamu, and the Banguren health districts to better fight the propagation of the COVID-19 pandemic in the division. The regional delegate of public health for the West has expressed gratitude on behalf of the beneficiaries.
In the report now, we are in the phase of decentralization. And you know, when this material come now, it will help the district now to follow up all the patients on the field.
The Minister of Territorial Administration was represented at the event by the Director of Civil Protection at the ministry.
The role of that ministry is to enhance capacity of actors to best response in the case of management of emergency situation. It's why we are here today with those items.
With some 200 confirmed cases of the coronavirus, the Noon Division is ranked second in the West region after the Mifi.
Members of the National Assembly have also been pitching in and helping with the fight against the contagious coronavirus. Honorable Usman Aman Sali was with the people of Pitwa, Bibemi and its environs with anti-COVID-19 material. During the donation, the divisional officer for Pitwa, Michelle Umaru, called for the rational use of the items. Wilson Mengole reports.
Thermoflashes, buckets, cartons of soaps, and face masks made up the anti-COVID-19 kits handed out to the Pitwa District Hospital, academic institutions, religious communities, representatives of Lawanas, commercial motorbike riders, and persons living with disabilities in Pitwa, Bibemi, and its surroundings.
I want to thank enough Honorable Deputy Usman Aman Sali for this gift. Can use it to fight against COVID-19.
To the donor, the Member of Parliament for Benue East constituency, Honorable Usman Aman Sali, the philanthropic gesture seeks to remind his people of his constant support in the face of the pandemic. The distribution exercise unfolded under the watchful eyes of the divisional officer for Pitwa, Umaru Michel, who stressed on the need for the population to make ample use of the gifts while strictly observing measures so as to roll back the killer disease from the subdivision.
As the battle to eradicate the deadly virus continues, the inhabitants of Bamenda mourn a medical doctor that has bowed after a COVID-19 infection. Dr. Liu Njok Ayok, described as an exceptional and devoted physician, succumbed to the virus at 45. Mercy Kusi reports on the tragedy.
His name tag is still visible in front of the tuberculosis unit of the Bamenda Regional Hospital, but he is never coming back here again.
He was a skillful physician, 19 years of professional experience as an epidemiologist, as a researcher, as a regional coordinator of the tuberculosis program for the Northwest region.
I fondly call him my workaholic because when it comes to assiduity, my husband is assiduous.
Dr. Leon Jok Ayuk bowed to COVID-19 on the 30th of June 2020 at a time when his services are still very much needed. As his colleagues bid him farewell, they hope that many people will come to realize how deadly COVID-19 is.
Everybody is prone to any other infection, and so we have to practice all the preventive barriers that have been laid down by the state.
The 45-year-old was buried at his residence upstation Bamenda in a restricted funeral ceremony in line with the official COVID-19 burial procedure.
We should bear in mind that negligence by a single individual can seriously harm the entire community.
As announced in one of our top stories, Cameroon joins the world today to observe the International Day of Cooperatives, which raises awareness on the importance of self-help and self-responsibility in development. Celebrated on the theme Cooperative for Climate Change, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development is sensitizing on their relevance and procedures for their matriculation. Ewane Epole has the details.
The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, MINADE, commemorates the 98th edition of the International Day of Cooperatives with focus on the theme Cooperatives for Climate Action.
The theme was in relation to the Sustainable Development Goals. Cooperatives were chosen as a channel to sensitize the people on the issue of climate change because it is the one business enterprise that regroups many actors. So cooperatives can serve as an important vehicle to touch the people to change their farming habits.
Officials of MINADE also use the occasion to sensitize the public on the importance and procedures of immatriculation of cooperative groups involved in the agro-pastoral sector.
In Cameroon, we have in our register 3,445 cooperatives, and 85% of them are agricultural cooperatives. To get your structure registered, we have simplified it with the advent of OHADA. So now you just go to the Divisional Service of Cooperatives, which is closest to where your headquarters is located.
According to MINADE experts, the event also underscores the contributions of the cooperative movement to resolving the major problems addressed by the United Nations and to strengthening and extending the partnerships between the international cooperative movement and other actors, notably the government in charge of enhancing the economic, socio-cultural and political advancement of communities and the nation at large.
Cooperatives have values and principles based on democracy, equality and equity. These private business organizations are usually formed to meet the common economic, social and cultural needs of its members. In the West region, cooperatives formerly specialized in the coffee sector are now opening up to other agro-pastoral fields. Go Henry Tesambe reports on their functioning.
The West region is often referred to as the land of plenty or the breadbasket of Central Africa. This is due to the quality and the quantity of farm produce from the region. Some farmers here have grouped themselves into cooperatives and have benefited from support from the government and partners to scale up production, generate revenue and alleviate poverty. Some of the cooperatives are Ukao and the Kaplami for coffee and the cocoa farmers in the region. Some maize, Irish potatoes and the beans farmers have their own cooperatives. The first Saturday of July every year is the International Day of Cooperatives to increase awareness on cooperatives and promote the movement's successes and ideals. No event was organized this year in the West region to mark the day.
In one of our top stories, the awaited budgetary orientation debate document, which outlines the 2021-2023 midterm economic and budgetary program for Cameroon, has been tabled before members of the National Assembly. The paper, which was deemed admissible by the Chairman's Conference presided over by House Speaker Honorable Kavege Jibril, will be examined by the Committee on Finance and the Budget before general debates. Charles Abune was at the National Assembly and now reports.
2 years ago, Parliament legislated on 2 bills, one on the Transparency and Good Governance Code, destined to better enterprises management, and the other, the state's new fiscal regime. One of the key innovations of the promulgated legislations was the introduction of the budgetary guidelines mechanism, loosely translated as the budgetary orientation debate, a legal process which compels the government to transmit to Parliament each year an informed business forecast for the medium-term evaluation of the economy. Today's Chairman's Conference of the National Assembly, chaired by House Speaker Kava Yege Jibril, was to receive this 105 pages document from the government, which presents Cameroon's anticipatable economic outlook from 2021 to 2023, to be in tandem with the program budget option opted by the government for people impacting based performance. The lengthy dossier, which outlines the qualitative and quantitative global and local potential in all areas, including employment and growth benchmarks, had gone through a special cabinet session a few days ago, a session in which Finance Minister Louis-Paul Motaze expounded on the content of the document. According to the budgetary guideline talks document shown to the entire House, the economy will rebound to about 3.1% in 2023, when it must have mastered the storm of the COVID-19 imposed uncertainty.
A new permanent representative of Cameroon's mission to the United Nations office in Geneva, Switzerland, has been appointed. Salomon Eheth, current director of the International Relations Institute of Cameroon, was appointed yesterday in a decree signed by President Paul Biya. Charles Abune once again profiles the seasoned diplomat in this report.
The International Relations Institute of Cameroon, this Friday, July 3, the institution holds its steering committee meeting, chaired by Minister Felix Mbayu. To present the management reports is the director of the school, Salomon Eheth. The meeting ends roughly midday, 5 hours after President Paul Biya appoints him as ambassador, permanent representative of Cameroon's mission to the United Nations office in Geneva, Switzerland.
I'm very happy. First of all, I thank God and express my deep gratitude to the head of state. You know, it's not the first time. 3 years ago, I was appointed in Eric. It's one of our prestigious schools as director.
At his residence, the family and close relatives joined, plus others, to celebrate the appointment of an individual who had worked in the Ministry of External Relations before moving to the presidency of the Republic, where 3 years ago he was made the director of the International Relations Institute of Cameroon.
We have the steering committee this morning. No, no, I'm surprised as everything.
Salomon Eheth is a complete product of the Cameroonian school system and had done all his postgraduate studies at the International Relations Institute of Cameroon, where he was serving as director before his appointment. He holds a PhD in international relations, a father of 4, and married.
The European Union ambassador to Cameroon, His Excellency Hans-Peter Schadek, has exchanged with governments on the COVID-19 pandemic and Cameroon's temporal exclusion on the European fly list. This was during an audience granted him by the Minister of External Relations, His Excellency Lejeune Belambela. Ambassador Hans-Peter Schadek now comes back to the salient issues discussed. Take a listen.
We had a very good and broad discussion on a range of issues. Much of it was related to the ongoing COVID-19 crisis, of course. It was the opportunity to recall the solidarity and commitment of the EU and our cooperation on this matter. You may have seen that we try to contribute to the Cameroonian response to the COVID crisis, and a lot has been done, and there were more things to be done in the coming weeks and months. So this was one of the areas. Secondly, we also had an exchange on the current discussion regarding access to the Schengen area in Europe, since restrictions are successively lifted. It's of course a complex process, as many criteria come into play, and I had the pleasure to explain to the minister that this is a process in progress. So every 14 days, every 2 weeks, criteria will be evaluated, so that countries who make good progress in mastering the crisis can fall into a category of countries that are no longer progressing and have the opportunity to be considered for being on that specific list.
Still in diplomacy, a consignment of ICT equipment has been offered to the Office du Baccalauréat of Cameroon to improve on the management of official examinations. The benefactor is the Turkish Cooperation Coordination Agency. The items were handed over to Secondary Education Minister Professor Nalova Lyonga by the Turkish ambassador to Cameroon. Beatrice Ngumos there now reports.
By this donation, the Turkish Cooperation and Coordination Agency has reinforced its presence in the country and especially in the education sector.
TICA has been pursuing very different fields like agriculture, SMEs, vocational training, and health, sanitation, and we attach great importance to new generation. And so it's very important to modernize the Office of Baccalaureate because it influences all the university students and the graduates of high school, so they are at most important.
The assistance to the back office is a consignment of ICT equipment that the board will use during the management and organization of official exams.
In the management of exams, the director is experiencing a new way of managing examinations, and that's why this material will be very, very, very important for him.
The donation is comprised of computers and printers. TICA, the Turkish Cooperation and Coordination Agency, runs several projects in Cameroon since 2010 in the domains of education, health, assistance to refugees, agriculture, arts and culture, amongst others.
We now take you to the Southwest region, where the inhabitants have shown their volition to support the reconstruction and development plan for the Northwest and Southwest regions hit by socio-political upheavals. At the end of a week-long awareness campaign led by the national coordinator of the program, Paul Tassong, they were admonished to back the initiative, which will alleviate their plight, as we hear in this report by Henry Mikole.
Paul Tassong came to the Southwest not only to educate the population on the plan, but also to remind them that the plan is a big step towards peace. Explaining why the reconstruction plan is important, the national coordinator argued that the people of the Southwest region, especially the internally displaced, cannot continue to live on handouts and as IDPs. That the plan is that one big instrument that can restore their destroyed property like homes, commercial motorcycles, commercial vehicles, shops and farms. And above all, the only initiative that can restore the economy of the Southwest region, and then hope. Hope that children can go back to school, hope that people can go back to their villages, hope that people can pick up the broken pieces of their lives.
It's a highly recommended plan, which if well implemented, it will rekindle some hope and confidence as far as the Southwest and Northwesterners are concerned.
During the awareness campaign, many bought into the plan. The people of the Southwest region even went ahead to sign a motion of support and adherence to the plan and to the head of state. But the big question that kept coming up was, how would the reconstruction plan be executed when the crisis is still on in some parts of the English-speaking regions of the country? The national coordinator stressed that they are aware of the challenges, but argued that they have all the strategies to implement the plan, that they will unturn all available stones to make sure that the objectives are attained. For now, the national coordinator Paul Tassong says his only plea to the people of the Southwest region is to support the plan, adding that Cameroon is not the first country in the world to have armed struggle, that reconstruction plans have worked in other parts of the world and in similar conditions, and that it can also work in Cameroon, especially if peace is given a chance.
With yesterday's presidential decree, health workers are now more than ever expected to be assiduous as they fight against the coronavirus. The toll-free number 1510 continues ringing, and the worries of callers are addressed accordingly. At a time when the infection rate of COVID-19 is yet to drop, the population is urged to keep respecting barrier measures prescribed by governments. Emmanuel Anvenue is at the Public Health Emergency Operations Center with updates on some of the strategies adopted to fight against COVID-19 in the center region. Hi, Emanuela.
Hello, Esther Kima. You're coming here just in time after a few minutes after the end of the daily press briefing by officials of the Public Health Emergency Operations Center here in Yaoundé. And I should say that it is an open secret henceforth that the Center region remains the epicenter of the coronavirus, with lots of cases confirmed. And as a result, we shall be talking to this evening with Dr. Frank Metom. He is the Deputy Incident Manager for the Center region on the different measures taken to address or to contain the virus in the Center region. Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening.
Tell us, what are the strategies you have put in place to contain the so many numbers of infections recorded in the Center region?
Okay, so we can resume this strategy in treating, tracking, testing, and treat. This means we continue with investigation in our community to look for people who can present sign and symptom of COVID-19. Secondly, we open many centers, many screening centers in the region for all the people, for all the Cameroonians to know, and every Cameroonian can go to these centers, screening centers, to test and to know the result. And finally, for those who need intensive care, you have many centers where you can take care of them. For example, Presbyterian Hospital of Jongolo, General Hospital, Central Hospital, and around Yaoundé, you have also District Hospital of Obala, of Bafia. That's the strategy that we use to fight against COVID in Center region.
Tell us, Doctor, we understand many centers have been put in place at the disposal of Cameroonians who want to get tested. And the process so far, how successful has it been? What have been some of your limitations and some of your strong points?
So, I think you have to congratulate health workers, because health workers work very hard and every day to maintain to protect our population. And last time I remember the minister talked about it, and he congratulated also them for the work. But I'm also afraid by those or the Cameroonians who hide the disease, because they continue to maintain active the virus in our country.
And what we should be telling them is, when you suspect any case or you see any person around, you report.
Yes, of course, you have to report it, to call the health worker, and he come to see if the people, is it a real case or not. You have to collect all the sample and to analyze it to know if you are COVID-19 positive or negative, and how you can take care of them.
Dr. Frank Metom, you are the Deputy Incident Manager for the Center region. Thank you very much for talking to the CRTV. Esther Kima, I should emphasize here that during the press briefing, health workers equally laid emphasis on nutrition of mothers, especially breastfeeding mothers during this period of COVID-19. They say even if the mother is positive and is asymptomatic, he or she can continue breastfeeding her child, provided she respects the barrier measures or the preventive measures, and equally respect the hygiene measures linked to breastfeeding. They have equally called on the Cameroonian population to remain vigilant and know that the disease is still spreading out there. Back to you, Esther Kima.
Thanks very much, Emanuela, for those updates. The track, test and treatment approach has been paying off, because many more persons have been knowing their status. They're either getting treatment or simply confining themselves in case they are asymptomatic. We now take you to the Northwest region. The Upper Nonviolent Development Authority is working towards providing some 75 tons of improved rice seeds to farmers in the Northwest region. But before that, we shall be taking you still to the Northwest region, where we'll be talking about the installation ceremony of the Divisional Officer for Santa, who's been commissioned into office. Mr. Ebena Esian Francis Len was installed into his functions by the Senior Divisional Officer for Santa. Details with all at Tetanki.
Take command. This is the new divisional officer for Santa Subdivision. The 36-year-old administrative officer takes over command of a subdivision with over 200,000 inhabitants. Faced with lack of potable water, poor road network and the socio-political crisis affecting the region for close to 4 years now.
It should ensure the security of the population here in Santa Subdivision and their property. He should personally supervise and coordinate the activities of screening all passengers at Matasem.
The elites of Santa Subdivision have also promised to accompany the DO to restore peace and bring development.
We're going to ensure that our vigilante groups work with him to identify all the terrorists and they are pushed out of this subdivision.
Bena Essien Frank Gislaine, before his appointment, was the DO for Puma in the Sanaga Maritime in the Center region. He is a holder of a master's degree in economic science. He takes over from George Basilican Malgua Emmanuel, who now moves to Bamenda 3 subdivision.
And as we announced earlier, the Upper Noon Valley Development Authority is working towards providing some 75 tons of improved rice seeds to farmers in the Northwest region. This will improve on the production of the enterprise, which has high nutritional value. The target this year is to produce about 150 tons of rice to meet local demand. Valerie Nkilo Sala reports on the functioning of the Development Authority.
At a 12-hectare rice seed farming dump, the Upper Noon Valley Development Authority tractor clears off the grasses from the marshy land, setting the stage for the planting season.
Last year, we produced more than 50 tons of rice seeds, of improved rice seeds, which we distributed to rice farmers, more than 600 rice farmers to cultivate this year. We are intending to step it up to more than 75 tons of seed.
But 25 labor force at the rice seed farm are working hard to beef up production, which can only be sustained thanks to at least 21 tractors of different qualities and capacities.
We have about 5 graders, 3 are functional. We have a front end loader, a compactor, a hydraulic excavator. They are meant for opening of access routes, farms leading to production buildings.
Cameroon relies heavily on imported rice, but the Upper Noon Valley Development Authority hopes to beef up production thanks to financial input from government.
Capital is the key, and I think the government is doing a lot. And if they support us the way they are promising to, they will be able to put maybe 100 to 150,000 tons of rice in the market, because we have the possibility that in Babungo we can farm 2 times in a year.
This is an installation ceremony for the newly promoted personnel of the institution, who are expected to contribute in the drive toward modernizing the Upper Noon Valley Development Authority. It is also thanks to this 39-year-old rice mill, which used to process 3.5 tons of paddy per hour, but which unfortunately now produces just 3 tons because of its aging nature.
Before we end this newscast, this official telegram from the President, CEO of the Republic, the President of the Republic of Cameroon, His Excellency Paul Biya, writes to the President of the United States of America, His Excellency Donald Trump. On the occasion of the National Day of the United States of America on the 4th of July, I'm pleased to extend to you my warm and heartfelt congratulations, as well as my wishes for good health and happiness to you and to the people of the great American nation. I avail myself of this solemn opportunity to reiterate my determination to continue working with you towards fostering the excellent ties of friendship and cooperation existing between our 2 countries. Accept, Mr. President, the renewed assurances of my highest consideration. It is signed Paul Biya, President of the Republic of Cameroon. And it is on that note that we wrap up things on this edition of the 7:30 News. In 20 minutes, join Atabadi Neomar for the news in the French language. Stay protected from the coronavirus, get tested, and receive treatments. Good night.
Each of us must comply with the measures that have been taken.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.